The snow fell thick on Christmas Eve as Sarah Bennet stood alone in the grand ballroom. Crystal chandeliers cast soft light over tables draped in white silk. She clutched her wine glass tighter as conversations hushed around her. Everyone was staring. Everyone had heard what Vanessa was about to say. Vanessa Pierce swept across the marble floor in her red designer gown. Her husband Marcus followed close behind, their infant son cradled in his arms like a trophy. The room quieted completely. Vanessa's smile was sharp as broken glass. "Sarah, darling," she called out, her voice echoing off the vaulted ceiling. "Still spending Christmas alone, I see. Hello, friends. Welcome to Black Bite Stories. Before we begin today's story, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? We love hearing from our global family." Sarah felt heat creep up her neck. The other guests shifted uncomfortably. Some looked away. Others leaned closer, hungry for the drama they'd been promised. Vanessa had built her empire on social media by destroying people with a smile. Tonight her target wore a simple black dress and no wedding ring. "I'm fine, Vanessa," Sarah said quietly. Her hands trembled slightly. She set down her wine glass before anyone could see. Vanessa circled her like a predator. "Fine? Is that what we're calling it?" She gestured dramatically to the crowd. "Everyone here has family, children, purpose." She paused for effect. "You had your chance with Marcus. 5 years of marriage, and you couldn't give him what he needed." Marcus stood silent. His face showed no emotion as his ex-wife was humiliated in front of Boston's elite. The same people who'd attended their wedding now watched their divorce play out in real time. Vanessa touched her son's tiny hand. "Some women are just meant to be alone," she continued. "It's not your fault you're barren." The word hung in the air like poison. Sarah's jaw tightened. Her eyes glistened, but no tears fell. She'd cried enough over the past 3 years. Tonight was different. Tonight, she had something Vanessa couldn't imagine. Something Marcus had walked away from without ever knowing. "I have family," Sarah said softly. The conviction in her voice made several guests look up. Vanessa laughed, the sound brittle and cruel. "Really? Where? Show us this mysterious family of yours," she waved toward the ballroom entrance. "Are they hiding in the coat room?" Sarah pulled out her phone. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen. She typed a single word and hit send. "They're not hiding," she said, meeting Vanessa's eyes directly for the first time. "They're just parking the car." The ballroom doors opened. A woman in her 60s entered, pushing an enormous custom stroller. But this wasn't any ordinary stroller. It had 4 seats arranged in 2 rows. Inside sat 4 identical toddler girls, wearing matching burgundy velvet dresses. Their dark curls were tied with gold ribbons. Their faces were mirror images of each other. The room erupted in gasps. Vanessa's smile froze. Marcus's face went pale as winter. The baby in his arms started crying, but he didn't seem to hear it. His eyes were locked on the 4 little girls who had his exact same dimples. Sarah walked toward the stroller. Her hands were steady now. The older woman, her mother, nodded encouragement. Sarah lifted the first girl into her arms. "This is Emma," she announced to the silent crowd. She pointed to each of the others. "That's Olivia, Ava, and Sophia, my daughters, my quadruplets." Marcus stumbled backward. The baby's cries grew louder. Vanessa grabbed his arm to steady him, but her eyes never left the 4 identical faces. "That's impossible," she whispered. Her voice had lost all its venom. "You couldn't have children." "That's why Marcus left." "I couldn't have children naturally," Sarah corrected. She bounced Emma gently. The little girl smiled at the crowd with complete confidence. "But we created embryos during our marriage. The divorce papers gave me full legal rights to use them." She looked directly at Marcus. "You were so eager to leave, you didn't read the fine print." Marcus handed the baby to Vanessa without looking at her. He moved toward Sarah like a man in a trance. His eyes traveled from one toddler to the next. The resemblance was undeniable. They had his dark eyes, his mother's nose. the distinctive Pierce family jawline. "When?" he asked. His voice cracked on the single word. "I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks after your wedding," Sarah replied. Her voice was calm, but every word landed like a hammer. "Quadruplets, against all odds, all 4 embryos took. I carried them for 8 months. They were born healthy and perfect." Vanessa's face had gone from red to white. Her carefully applied makeup couldn't hide the shock. "You've been hiding Marcus's children for 3 years?" Her voice rose to a shriek. "You kept them secret?" The baby in her arms cried harder. "I built a life for them," Sarah said firmly. She set Emma down and lifted Sophia, who immediately wrapped tiny arms around her neck. "My mother moved from California to help. I hired a nanny. My neighbors formed a support network." She looked around the ballroom at the judgment in people's eyes. "I gave them everything they needed. Love, stability, safety." A woman in the crowd stepped forward. Dr. Patricia Chun, Boston's leading fertility specialist. She'd been at the bar when the doors opened. Now she approached the stroller with professional interest. "May I?" she asked Sarah. At Sarah's nod, she knelt beside the stroller, examining Ava and Olivia gently. "Identical quadruplets from frozen embryos," Dr. Chun said, her voice filled with wonder. She stood and faced the crowd. "The medical odds are astronomical, maybe 1 in 70 million. All 4 embryos implanted successfully. All 4 babies carried to term and born healthy." She looked at Sarah with respect. "This is remarkable." Marcus was still staring at his daughters. He knelt slowly beside the stroller. Ava reached out and touched his face with one small hand. The simple gesture broke something in him. Tears streamed down his cheeks. "They're beautiful," he whispered. "They're mine. They're ours," Sarah corrected quietly. "Whether you want them or not." Vanessa found her voice again. It came out harsh and desperate. "This is a trick. Some kind of trap. She's trying to destroy our marriage." She clutched her son tighter. "Marcus, tell her to leave. Tell her these children mean nothing." Marcus stood slowly. He wiped his eyes but didn't look at Vanessa. "I can't do that." His voice was stronger now. "They're my daughters. I can see it in their faces. I can feel it." He finally turned to his wife. "I walked away from Sarah because she couldn't give me children fast enough. And she gave me 4. The irony crashed over the room like a wave. Whispers started in corners. Phones appeared as guests began texting furiously. This would be all over social media by midnight. Vanessa's perfect Christmas party was destroyed. Her perfect marriage was cracking in real time. Sarah's mother spoke up from beside the stroller. "We should go, Sarah. The girls need their dinner and bed." She was giving her daughter an exit, a way to leave with dignity intact. But Sarah shook her head. "Not yet." She looked at Marcus directly. "I didn't come here for revenge. I came because it's Christmas, and these girls deserve to know their father. You walked away once." She paused, her voice dropping lower. "Will you walk away again?" The question hung in the air. Marcus looked at Vanessa holding their son, then at the 4 toddlers in the stroller, then back at Sarah, the woman he'd left behind. His entire future balanced on what he said next. "No," he said finally. "I won't walk away." He moved closer to the stroller. "I don't know how to fix this. I don't know what comes next. But I won't abandon them." He reached out tentatively and touched Olivia's hand. She grabbed his finger and held tight. Vanessa made a sound somewhere between a sob and a scream. She thrust the baby at a nearby guest and stormed toward Sarah. "You planned this. You wanted to humiliate me in front of everyone I know." Her perfect composure had shattered completely. "You wanted to steal him back." "I don't want Marcus back," Sarah said clearly. Every word was truth. "I want my daughters to know their father. I want them to grow up without shame or secrets." She looked around at the crowd. "I spent 3 years hiding because I was afraid. Afraid of judgment. Afraid of rejection. But my girls deserve better than a mother who hides." Dr. Chun stepped between Vanessa and Sarah. "This isn't about revenge or humiliation," she said firmly. 4 children exist who didn't yesterday. That's the only fact that matters now." She looked at Marcus. "The question is what kind of father you're going to be." Marcus knelt again by the stroller. He looked at each daughter in turn, trying to memorize faces he should have known since birth. "I missed everything," he said quietly. "Their first breath, first smile, first steps, first words. There are only 3, Sarah's mother said gently. "You haven't missed everything, but you'll miss the rest if you choose wrong tonight." Her eyes held no judgment, only sad wisdom. She'd watched her daughter carry 4 babies alone. She'd been there for every midnight feeding, every fever, every milestone. Emma climbed out of the stroller with determined confidence. She walked straight to Marcus on unsteady toddler legs. When she reached him, she patted his knee like she'd seen Sophia do earlier. "Daddy sad?" she asked. Her vocabulary was limited, but her meaning was clear. The simple question undid Marcus completely. He lifted Emma into his arms and held her close. She didn't know him, but she comforted him anyway. That's what children do. They love without conditions or history. "Yes, baby," he whispered against her hair. "Daddy's very sad, but Daddy's also very happy to meet you." Vanessa watched her husband hold another woman's child. Her face cycled through emotions too fast to name. Finally, she turned and walked out of the ballroom. Her heels echoed on the marble like gunshots. The guest holding her son looked around desperately, then hurried after her. The crowd began to disperse. Some guests approached Sarah with apologies and congratulations. Others left quickly, uncomfortable with the raw emotion. Dr. Chun stayed, asking questions about the pregnancy and birth, with genuine medical interest. Sarah's mother began packing up the stroller, preparing for the long drive home. Marcus stood with Emma still in his arms. "Can I see them again?" he asked Sarah. "Tomorrow? I know it's Christmas, but I can't wait. I've already waited 3 years without knowing." His voice was humble, stripped of the arrogance he'd worn during their marriage. "We're staying at my mother's house in Cambridge," Sarah said. "You can come by tomorrow afternoon. 2:00. She lifted Emma from his arms gently. "But Marcus, if you do this, you're all in. No walking away when it gets hard. No choosing your new family over your old one. All 5 of your children deserve a father." "5?" Marcus looked confused for a moment, then understanding dawned. "Right, Jackson. My son with Vanessa." He ran his hand through his hair. "How do I do this? How do I be a father to 5 children in 2 families?" "Carefully," Sarah's mother said, her voice firm. She reminded Marcus that Sarah had built a life for the girls without him, but that they still deserved their father. If he stayed, he had to show up every time. No excuses, no favorites. Marcus promised he would be there tomorrow. Sarah loaded the girls into their car seats in the rented SUV, kissing each one as their party excitement faded into sleepiness. As she turned to leave, Dr. Chun stopped her and praised her courage walking into that room, facing her past, and refusing to hide. She smiled and said the girls were lucky to have such a brave mother. "Thank you," Sarah said. The words felt inadequate, but sincere. She'd spent so long feeling like a failure, barren, broken, unable to give her husband what he wanted. Tonight she'd walked in with proof that she'd succeeded beyond anyone's imagination. The drive to Cambridge was quiet. The girls fell asleep within minutes. Sarah's mother navigated the snowy roads with careful focus. Sarah sat in silence, processing everything that had happened. The look on Vanessa's face, the tears in Marcus's eyes, the weight of secrets finally released. "Do you think he'll really come tomorrow?" Sarah asked finally. Her mother glanced at her. "I think he will. Whether he stays involved long term, that's a different question. But tomorrow?" "Yes, he'll come." They pulled into the driveway of her mother's modest Cambridge home just before 9. Together they carried 4 sleeping toddlers inside and tucked them into the temporary cribs set up in the guest room. Sarah stood in the doorway watching her daughters sleep. Their faces were peaceful, innocent, unaware that their world had shifted tonight. Christmas morning arrived cold and bright. The girls woke early, excited by the presents under the tree. Sarah's mother made pancakes while Sarah helped 4 toddlers open gifts. Wrapping paper flew. Squeals of delight filled the small house. For a few hours everything was perfect and simple. At 1:45, Sarah began to worry. What if Marcus didn't come? What if last night had been temporary emotion that faded in daylight? She dressed the girls in matching outfits, red sweaters with white snowflakes. She checked the window every few minutes. At exactly 2 o'clock, a car pulled up outside. Marcus stepped out carrying 4 wrapped gifts and looking nervous. Sarah opened the door before he could knock. "You came," she said. Relief flooded her voice. "I promised," Marcus replied. "I won't break promises to them. Not anymore." He spent hours on the floor learning his daughter's personalities. Emma the organizer, Olivia the watcher, Ava the joker, Sophia the gentle peacemaker. By the end, they climbed over him as if he'd always belonged. As he prepared to leave, Marcus admitted this wouldn't be easy. Vanessa had filed for separation and couldn't accept the girls. Sarah listened, then reminded him her only concern was consistency, a father who showed up. Could he be that? "I don't know," he said, "but I'll try." He promised an apartment nearby, a custody plan, support, whatever it took. He wanted to be in their lives truly. 6 months blurred past. Visits twice a week became more. Marcus moved to Cambridge, set up a nursery with 4 of everything, and the girls grew comfortable enough to call him Daddy on their own. What began as awkward meetings became routine and trust. Vanessa's separation turned into a bitter public divorce, played out online. She kept their son, Jackson, and moved to New York, allowing only monthly supervised visits. The cost of choosing his daughters was losing daily contact with his son, a trade Marcus accepted, even as it haunted him, a burden he chose to carry alone. Sarah returned to work as a hospital administrator while her mother stayed in Cambridge to help with the girls. A rhythm formed: school days, evenings with Mom, weekends shared with Marcus. It wasn't the family either had imagined, but it worked. On the girls' 4th birthday, Marcus hosted a party. They wore matching purple dresses and blew out candles on 4 cupcakes, unaware of how complicated their story was. Afterward, Sarah and Marcus sat on the balcony as the sun set, listening to their daughter's laughter drift outside. Marcus thanked her for that Christmas night, for not letting him miss this life. Sarah reminded him the girls deserved to know their father, and that earning the role came one day at a time. They spoke of mistakes, forgiveness, and the miracle of 4 daughters who had changed everything. Inside, the girls revealed their growing personalities. Emma leading, Olivia choosing, Ava joking, Sophia caring. Marcus marveled at them and at the strength Sarah had shown raising them with her community's help. When he shared that Vanessa was moving to London with his son, Sarah offered empathy. "You can't save every relationship," she said, "only show up where you're wanted." That night, tucking the girls in, Sarah promised their father loved them and wasn't going anywhere. Reassured, they drifted into laughter, safe in the certainty that they were cherished. Sarah stood in the doorway after the girls fell asleep, thinking how her daughters had made her brave. Years passed. The identical girls started school in different colored backpacks, growing into confident individuals. Marcus showed up for every milestone, and with Sarah built a respectful partnership. It was no longer romantic, but it was real. Vanessa moved on, and Marcus learned to stop measuring his life against hers, grateful for a second chance he didn't deserve. 7 years after that Christmas Eve, they shared dinner. Laughter filled the room as Marcus admitted Sarah had been the bravest person there, willing to walk into fire for her children. What mattered now was simple. The girls were happy and loved. Driving home through snowy streets, Sarah answered their questions with honesty. She had never been lonely. They were her whole world. Love didn't divide, it multiplied. Different didn't mean broken. That night she watched them sleep, remembering the woman who had once stood humiliated in a ballroom and realizing how far she'd come. The story that began in shame had become one of belonging for daughters who knew they were wanted, a mother who fought for them and a father who chose them.